Organizing committee, Mr. Nachiyappan, Madam Swarna, Mr. Sivakumar, Mr. Vishwanathan, my classmate Vishwanathan. See the presentation, what I've been asked to cover is the RBI's regulatory package. And I have prepared a presentation and have structured the presentation to give a context and give some basic background data before we talk about RBI regulatory package. So just let me know, these are primarily my personal views. And since most of the data would be available in public domain, I would like this to be more an interactive session rather than a monologue. So if we go to the structure of the presentation, structured in terms of decoding the COVID-19 impact, various economic measures by Government of India covering both fiscal and monetary, the RBI's regulatory package, which is the primary topic for today, and a very few slides about Exim Bank for people who are not familiar with Exim Bank. Before I proceed, just wanted to see most of the data people would be aware. Fiscal policy is what Government of India announces, and monetary is what Central Bank announces. For India, Central Bank is what we call the Reserve Bank of India. Before, in fact, going to the decoding the COVID-19 impact, to find how export has been happening the last few years, Indian merchandise exports have shown slow but steady growth over the past 3 financial years. Exports has grown from USD 276 billion in financial year 17 to USD 304 billion in financial year 18 with about 10% growth, and further to about USD 330 billion in financial year 2019 with about 8% growth. Over the same period, exports of services, which is also very critical for India, grew from about USD 163 billion to USD 196 billion with a 20% growth, and further to USD 208 billion with only 6% growth. This year, exports of merchandise in the financial year likely to fall short of achievement what we did in last year. Services exports picture is yet unclear. Import, as you know, is more than exports. We are a trade deficit country, and that's the reason as a country we focus exports, and that is one of the mandate for Exim Bank like any other country. The slowdown in exports in India in the last few years can be attributed to a number of factors. Primarily, slowdown in global GDP, growing level of protectionism in developed economies like US, slowdown in Indian manufacturing with capacity utilization below 70%, and also we saw some rise in import tariffs impacting the import content of Indian exports, competition from neighboring countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, etc. At this critical juncture, now we're coming to COVID, at this critical juncture, the devastating impact of COVID-19 virus on Indian export capability as well as global import demand is likely to have a materially adverse impact on Indian exports. As you would see in the last couple of months, there is a significant impact since we primarily interact with exporters. We see there's a great impact in many sectors. In fact, that we'll see in the next slide. But if you look at the impact of this COVID-19, it is expected to give about USD 120 billion or roughly 2 percentage points of a loss of output. This I'm quoting from a Barclays report. According to UNCTAD, India and China are the only possible exceptions to the developing economies being highly likely to go into recession due to COVID-19. In fact, what is being said is that the global economy will degrow at a level of about -2%, as well as countries like China will grow about 1% positive for current year. And India, even though will grow at 2%, it will be much, much more than other countries, maybe one of the largest, or sorry, one of the fastest growing economy, even though there is scope which is available. If you look at India's sectoral outlook, if you look at, I'll take to the next slide, which we have again taken the courtesy of the Deutsche Bank and the Moody's. If they look at the COVID-19 heat impact, they have talked about the sectors which has high exposure, low exposure, and moderate exposure. We need not go through sector by sector, but if you look at, there are sectors which are significantly affected. Definitely passenger, the aviation sector, tourism, lodging, etc. Some of the sectors which has high export potential like apparel, I also include leather in that, automotive components, and again in terms of moderate exposure, chemicals, etc. And the low exposure which are not directly linked to the global economy in terms of certain sectors like rental, equipment, transportation, etc. Some sectors, pharmaceutical, I would say low exposure, but within pharmaceutical, there are sectors, there are subsectors which is positively impacted. In fact, in some of our clients, they are saying pharma is not impacted. In fact, they are working more than 100% capacity utilization. There are sectors which has been positively impacted, like especially digital services, etc. Now, now if you look at actually the various fiscal policy, as I said, fiscal policy is what Government of India announces. It is mentioned that the Government of India has announced 1.7 lakh crores, which is about 0.85% of GDP, and which if you look at comparison of various global economies, there are economies which like Germany, which has announced about 20% fiscal stimulus of their GDP. There are countries which has given about 10%. So there are a lot of discussion saying that whether our 0.85 is much low compared to other economies. But given the constraints what India is currently now, given this 0.85 is also can be leveraged properly to have the maximum impact. I'm not going to the details because much of the data is available in public domain. I'll be happy to answer specifically these questions if it is raised little later. But I'll just go to the monetary policy, which RBI has announced. In fact, the fiscal policy has been announced by the Government of India through various departments, primarily the Department of Financial Services led by the Finance Minister over a period of time. And during this period, the exporting community were looking eagerly forward for the special announcements by the Reserve Bank of India. Under the monetary policy, some of the key announcements was that, see, every 2 months they have what is called the MPC, where they decide to have the revisit of the important rates. But outside the bi-monthly meet, they met, the MPC of RBI met and decided to reduce the repo rate by 75 basis points to bring down the repo rate to 4.4% from 5.15. This is the rate in which RBI lends to the banks, and that is the basis in which I think it trickle downs to the funding to the Indian exporters. Among other things, RBI announced that banks are permitted to allow 3-month moratorium on payments of term loans as well as working capital. That we'll discuss in detail. That are outstanding on March 1st. RBI also decided to reduce what is called cash reserve ratio by about 1%, which again releases the lot of funds into the system, which again makes it easy for the banks to lend to the Indian exporters. RBI, among other announcements, they have also extended the deadline for realization of payment receipts to 15 months. This will enable exporters to receive the receipts, especially from COVID-19 affected countries within that period. Now I'll talk about the RBI's regulatory package. See, it is divided into multiple sections. One is primarily the term loans and working capital facilities. If you look at the RBI's circular, which has been given on 27th, in fact, on that day in the morning, the Reserve Bank governor announced, and there was some confusion in terms of interest. If you would have noticed, and they announced special revised package by evening. If you look at the term loans and working capitals, in fact, I will use the same verbatim so that we can discuss a little later. In respect of term loans, all commercial banks, including AIFIs like Exim Bank, are permitted, I underquote the word permitted, to grant a moratorium of 3 months on payment of all installments. And they qualified what is eligible for installments, which they said installments will include the following payments falling due between March 1 and March 31st, which covers principal and or interest, bullet repayments, EMIs, and credit card dues. In fact, during that day on 27th, there was a lot of confusion whether credit card payments are included or not. Finally, end of the day, they clarified that. The RBI has also said the repayment schedule for such loans, as also the residual tenor, will be automatically shifted across the board by 3 months after the moratorium period. Interest shall continue to accrue on the outstanding portion of the term loans during the moratorium period. To clarify, interest will not be waived, interest shall accrue and repayable on the payment methods which will be informed by the bank. In respect of working capital facilities, I'm primarily talking about the cash credit and overdraft. There again, it is allowed that the interest can be deferred and it can be paid immediately after the moratorium period. This is for the term loans and working capital. In fact, Reserve Bank also has announced how we can ease working capital financing, because you have to pile up stocks, the receivables days will get increased. Understanding that, what the Reserve Bank has said is that the working capital bankers, be it a consortium or multiple banking, they can assess the drawing power, reassess the assess limits. They can reassess even the margins, and this they've qualified, saying that this relief shall be available in respect of all changes affected up to May 31st. And it also adds on to say it shall be contingent on the lending institution to satisfy themselves that the same is hello, hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes,
You are audible.
Yeah, sorry. In terms of easing of working capital financing, in addition to the rescheduling of the term loans and working capital, they said lenders can ease the norms for extending working capital, primarily reassessing the assess limits and also reducing the margins if required. But as I said, it is under a qualification, saying that it should be based on the assessment of the banks in terms of the fallout of COVID-19 impact. As you know that the Reserve Bank of India makes an annual inspection of the banks to come and see the quality of the assets, and there if they have a doubt that it is not genuine, they may downgrade the account with the resulting impact of provisions and tagging of the account as non-performing asset. So this point is actually very, very critical. The other things which may be relevant for the Indian exporting community is the mention about special mention accounts and non-performing assets. As you would know that any delay, in fact, what is called even one-day delay, any delay, it has to be system generated and reports to a database like Acrylic by the banks, where it says there is a delay of 1 day, and up to 30 days called SMA 30, SMA 0. Above 30 to 60 is called SMA 1, above 60 is called SMA 2, above 90 it is NPA. So this moratorium given by the banks will not automatically make the account as SMA or NPA, as long as the repayments are based on the revised repayment schedule. And again, there is a mention about, as you would know, that Reserve Bank of India had issued one circular in February 2018, very famous February 12th circular for based on AQR. And subsequently, the next year, they have announced another circular in June 2019, on June 7th, basically the prudential framework to again assess the quality of the loans. So there in the June 7th circular, there's a mention about the difficulty or the stressed assets. So they're saying that if we give this benefit under this RBI's March 27th circular, it will not fall under that category. You can continue to maintain the assets quality as long as they pay as per the revised repayment schedule. What I would see that at this point of time, there is a lot of discussion in terms, in fact, wherever I am a part of group, both in the school, UG, PG, there's a lot of discussion saying that should we go for the moratorium given by the banks? Is there any hidden cost? Should I take it for for the corporate loans but not for the retail loans? What about credit cards, etc.? Maybe there I would want the discussions can happen there, where it's more of an interpretation, and also will depend upon banks to banks in terms of what is their policy. I'll just take you across one or two slides. Just I'll not spend too much time about Exim Bank. Exim Bank is set up by an act of parliament. We are owned 100% by Government of India. We play a role in policy formulation. We have the same rating as sovereign rating of Government of India. We actually finance, promote, facilitate by offering a variety of financing programs, value-added services, and also through various product research and analysis. We act as a catalyst for financing projects, products, and services. If you know all the lines of credit extended by Government of India, as of now, there's a commitment of about $16 billion. Wherever Government of India, including Prime Minister, when he announces lines of credit to Russia, Africa, Mongolia, etc., all are routed through lines of credit. these are the basic programs. I don't want to waste our time in this. I'll just go back to this primary, these two slides, and I would want more as an open discussion where we can discuss. I will throw open the flow for discussion.